Alright, good morning grade 12. So today we're going to do the last lesson on creative thinking. So this is the last topic that we're going to do in chapter 4. Okay, today's lesson is all about problem solving techniques. Alright, just a summary quickly. These are the 4 techniques that we are going to look at. The Delphi Technique, this is where we obtain the opinions of experts without the experts actually having to meet in person. The force field analysis is an analysis that we do where we compare all the forces for a decision and we compare that to all the forces that is against a decision. Brainstorming is a technique that promotes creative thinking by encouraging idea generation without participants criticizing the ideas of fellow participants. Nominal group technique is where participants also generate ideas to solve a problem. All right, both brainstorming and the nominal group technique is where we obviously will make groups in the business, and we're going to give people the opportunity to think creatively and different people to come up with different kind of ideas as to how we can solve our problem. The first thing we're going to look at is the Delphi Technique. Okay, so the first, the application of the Delphi Technique. Okay, so as I said, with the Delphi Technique, it is all about getting the opinions of experts. All right, so what the business is going to do is we're going to invite a panel of experts, and then they are going to research the complaints that we have received from customers. Okay, remember these problem-solving techniques comes in when we have identified a problem. We have gone through the problem-solving cycle. Part of that cycle is to come up with possible solutions. Now, these problem-solving techniques is what we are going to use to come up with different solutions. All right, so we're going to invite a panel of experts, obviously that is experts in the field, that's very knowledgeable in the field, and we're going to ask them to come up with solutions on our behalf. Right, what is great about this technique is that experts do not have to be in one place. We are going to contact each of these experts individually. They never have to be in the same room. They never have to talk to each other. They never have to meet face to face. All right, so wherever they are, we can make use of experts around the world to do this, because we send them the information. They don't have to come to our business. Right, the way that it's going to work is in the business, we are going to design a questionnaire consisting of questions on how to improve the quality of our products. And once we have come up with the questionnaire, obviously addressing issues regarding the complaints from our customers or regarding the problem that we have identified. And then once we have designed this questionnaire, we are going to give this questionnaire to our experts, all right, to the panel of experts. So obviously, because we don't meet with them face to face, we can email this questionnaire to them. Okay, electronic communications works very fast. All right, so we will email them the questionnaire. They will receive this questionnaire, and each one on his own time will complete this questionnaire. Right, we're going to ask this panel of experts to respond individually to the questionnaire. In other words, they're not going to be discussing it with each other. They don't even know who the other experts on the panel is. Okay, so as far as they know, you are asking them certain questions. So individually, based on their own experiences and their own knowledge, they're going to answer the questionnaire and they will make certain suggestions. They will come up with certain solutions to our problem, and then they're going to return it to the business. Okay, so us as a business, we wait until we have received back the responses from all of our experts. We are then going to summarize all of their responses in a feedback report. All right, so once, however many panel experts we have, we wait for their responses to be sent back to us. We take their responses, we see how each one individually responded, and then we summarize their responses in a feedback report. This feedback report and then a second set of questions based on that feedback report is sent back to the same panel members. Okay, so once we've summarized their previous responses in a report, and then maybe new set of questions that we can come up with, right? They've made their suggestions, they've given us feedback. we might want them to expand on the information that they provided. So when we ask them questions, we give them the opportunity to explain their feedback more. So we give them this feedback report, we submit additional questions, and we send it to the same panel again. We are then going to request these panel members to provide further input. So we're going to now ask them to complete the second set of questions on how we can improve the quality. They look at the results, they look at what the other experts had to say, and when they see the suggestions from other experts, it might stimulate some creative thinking again, and they might come up with more different solutions as well as to what we can do. Right, then we are going to distribute a third questionnaire based on the previous feedback from the second round. So again, we are going to wait for the responses. Okay, so as soon as we have received back all the second responses from our panel of experts, we are going to again summarize that, and we send out a third questionnaire based on the second feedback. Now, the feedback from that second round, we might have more questions. Right, then once they submit the third questionnaire, we're going to prepare a final summary with all the suggestions that those experts have made. Okay, so obviously they've made now different suggestions. Some of them might say the same thing, all right? But we're going to look at what they said. We're going to look at their suggestions, and we're going to look at the methods that they have prescribed to us, how we can improve the quality of our products. Okay, then obviously once we have now the final summary, we have to now decide on the best solution. All right, so once our panel of experts have submitted the third questionnaire, their job is done, and now it remains up to us. The people in the business now have to decide which of those solutions that the experts came up with do we think is going to work best in our business. Okay, obviously, these experts are not affiliated to our business in any way, so we now have to look at the resources that we have in our business. Some of their suggestions might not be possible for us to implement, some of them might, and we have to decide on the best solution. We cannot obviously implement all of their suggestions. We have to choose the best strategy, and then we are going to implement the best solution once we have reached consensus. All right, so the impact of the Delphi technique, okay, what is positive about it and what is negative. All right, on the positive side, the advantages is that we can use a group of experts without having to bring them together. Okay, as I said, that's a big advantage because our experts can be from wherever the world. They can be in other countries, they can be all over South Africa, and they are knowledgeable people. All right, so we don't have to physically bring them together for a brainstorming session. They can stay exactly where they are. We send them the questionnaires and we get the best kind of advice from the experts without having to go to them or them coming to us. All right. Second advantage is that because they are experts in their field, they will give us clear ideas on how to improve on our productivity, how to improve our profitability, how to improve the quality of our products, whatever the issue was in the beginning. Now, remember, we've identified a problem that we have to solve, and they might give us a good idea on strategies that we can use, action plans that we can use to solve our problem. The information that we receive from them can be used to solve complex business problems. As I said, these people are experts, so it's not like we're approaching a random person on the street that doesn't know what they're doing. Because these people are experts in their field, they obviously know what they're doing, and their solutions will be credible, right? We can use some of their solutions. As I said, not all of their solutions might work for our business and our specific problems, but they can definitely come up with ideas that we might not think about. All right, also very important, as I said, that these experts don't have a personal interest in the business. It is not people working for the business, so they have nothing to lose from being honest. Okay, if it's somebody that's in our business, obviously they're always scared to lose their job, so they might be scared to say something negative, but these experts do not work for our business. They're not affiliated with our business in any way. They don't stand to gain or lose anything by being honest. Right, so when they assess the situation, they will give an honest opinion. They are not going to lie. They've got nothing to gain by lying. Also, a big advantage is that conflict may be avoided, okay, because we are not bringing them together. Okay, there's not a face-to-face meeting here where people can kind of speak to each other and tell each other that their ideas are stupid. They don't see each other at all. They each give their opinions independently from the others. So they don't have to be scared of criticism, and there's no conflict situation where one person kind of attacks almost the other person's opinions or whatever, all right? So there's no conflict. Whereas if we use people in the business, sometimes conflict does arise, because if we've got two very strong personalities in the business and each of them have a very strong opinion and they don't agree on what should be done, obviously that is a recipe for conflict to happen. But because these experts, they are not meeting face to face, obviously we are not put in a conflict situation. Also, dominating employees cannot take over because they do not form part of this problem-solving process. If we are using people from within the business, obviously we have some people with more dominating personalities and other people with more submissive personalities. And the idea with problem-solving is that everybody must give their opinion. Now, in a business situation, like with some of the others that we'll be going to look at, like brainstorming, for example, sometimes there's some employees with very strong personalities that tend to dominate the discussion, all right? And then submissive employees don't really have a chance to say anything. But in the case of the Delphi technique, there's no such thing. The employees are not involved in this problem solving at all, so it cannot be a case of a person with a more dominating personality taking over the discussion. Right? As I said, each expert gives his honest opinion independently of the others. They don't even know what the others are thinking or what the others are saying until they get the feedback after the first questionnaire. All right. Also, it reduces noise levels in an office environment because, once again, there's no group discussion in the business. Okay, there's no such thing as, okay, now, we have a half an hour session in the afternoon where everybody leaves their job and we're going to now participate in this group discussion. Obviously, any group work, you can think for yourself. When you do group work in class, it is never quiet. The noise levels will obviously increase because people are talking to each other. And as I said, conflict can arise. If people don't agree on each other's opinion and they try to now attack the other person's opinion, obviously then it is going to create noise levels in a business, which might reduce productivity of other people. People that are not involved in the group discussion might not be able to concentrate if there's higher noise levels because of our group discussion. With the Delphi technique, this is eliminated because there is no group discussion at the workplace. The experts don't even discuss things. They do things independently. There's no group discussion at all. So we don't have that risk of increased noise levels at the workplace to reduce other employees' productivity. All right. On the negative side, obviously it is an expensive technique to use because there's high admin costs. Okay, the cost of data is very expensive. So every single time that we have to send out a questionnaire and we have to get it back and then we have to summarize, it does create an administrative burden. It is also time consuming and complicated because now we have to wait. Now we send out the questionnaires and then we wait. And as soon as we get all the questionnaires back, now we have to analyze the data that we received from the experts. We have to summarize that and we have to send out a second questionnaire and then we wait. And we wait for all the experts to submit the second questionnaire. And then when we get everything eventually, again, we summarize and we send a third questionnaire and we wait. All right. So there's a whole lot of waiting. Okay, it's not something that is going to come up with a solution quickly because we have to wait for these experts to submit. And obviously they don't work for us. So we can't be too harsh on deadlines. We can't be irritating them and say, hey, you were supposed to submit yesterday already. They don't work for us. All right. So we have to wait for them to find time to actually finish our questionnaires, and it might take a long time. All right. Next disadvantage is that not all experts will obviously be willing or interested even in completing our questionnaires. Our experts obviously also have jobs and they've got other things to do. They might not be willing to take time out of their busy schedules to devote some time to actually complete our questionnaire. And sometimes if they do complete the questionnaire, they do a rush job. They just try to get it done so that they can get us off their backs. So, sometimes they're not very willing to actually do it properly. It doesn't always get done properly. All right. Then obviously these experts that we are consulting, they are experts in a certain field, but they don't necessarily have an in-depth knowledge of the topic that we have an issue with. All right. obviously there's lots of different problems in a business, and these experts might be very knowledgeable in their field, but they're not necessarily very knowledgeable about our business and the particular problem that we are facing. Okay, and then the last disadvantage is that their suggestions may not be considered by some employees. Okay, so we do stand the risk of employees feeling that they were not being consulted. So employees might not actually like the suggestions that the experts have made. So it might happen that after this whole process was followed, in the business, when we have to decide on the right strategy to do, on the right solution, that in the business we are not able to reach a consensus. Okay, so we cannot definitively choose one of the solutions that the experts have made if expert suggestions are not liked by the employees. They're not in favor of those solutions. Remember, any solution that we implement in the business, we need a buy-in from our workers. Otherwise, if they don't believe in a solution, they are not going to put their full weight behind it. They're not going to try to make it work. All right. So if they feel that the suggestions by the experts, they don't like them, then it might be that we will not be able to actually choose a solution, and then we cannot reach consensus. Right, the next strategy we're going to look at is the force field analysis. Okay, as I said earlier, it is used to look at all the forces for and all the forces that works against a decision. Right, what we need to do in terms of the force field analysis, we have to describe the current situation. Remember, we have identified a problem. So we can say, well, this is the problem that we are facing, and then what is our desired situation? Okay, so our problem is our market share is only 20%. We would like to increase our market share to 30%. Now, the current situation, the problem is that our market is only 20%, but we would like to have the desired situation would be 30%. Right, then what we do is that we have to now make a list of all the driving and restraining forces that will support or resist change. So the driving forces are those forces that works in our favor. It works for our decision. The restraining forces are those forces that works against our decision. It's those things that might prevent us from implementing this change. Then once we have a list of all the driving and restraining forces, we are going to allocate a score to each force using a numerical scale. Okay, so we have to decide how strong are these forces. 1, if we give them a value of 1, obviously we feel that these forces are very weak. And then if we give them a score of 5, obviously these forces are very strong. All right, obviously in between 2, 3, 4, we have to decide. Now, how strong are those driving forces? How strong are those restraining forces? Then obviously we're going to add up. We're going to add up all the scores that we gave for the driving forces, and we're going to add up all the scores for our restraining forces. So then we will have a total numerical value for the positive forces, the forces for our decision, and we will also have a numerical value of our negatives. And then what we need to do, obviously, we need to see, is this project even viable? Is this a good decision or is it a bad decision? We're going to choose the force with the highest score as the solution. Okay, so whichever one gives us the highest number, that is going to be the one that we are going to be implementing. If the project is viable, we obviously then have to find ways to increase the forces for change. All right, so if we decide this project is viable, we are going to implement it, then we need to hone in on those driving forces, and we need to make those forces stronger, and we need to find ways to have more forces that is going to help us to reach our goals. We have to identify our priorities, and then we're going to develop an action plan. Okay, so the action plan, exactly how are we going to implement this project? How are we going to implement this change? Right, as the same one is, the force field analysis also have advantages and disadvantages. All right, so if we look at the advantages, it does provide us with a visual summary of all the various factors that is supporting and opposing a particular idea. You know, if you have to make a decision sometimes, you make a list. What is good about the decision? What is bad about the decision? And just to have it written down, it helps us to see the problem. Okay, a visual summary We're not just thinking about, okay, what is positive, what is negative. We're actually physically writing it down, which gives us a better idea of what is happening. And writing it down also stimulates other ideas. What is important about this one is that your employees feel included and understood because they will participate in this process. All right, it's not that we're using experts like the Delphi Technique. Now we are using people from within the business and they feel that they are being included. And obviously, once they've reached a decision, they are going to be more willing to follow the action plan and implement the strategy if we have included them in our decision making. If they feel that, oh, I was a part of this decision making, this was my idea, obviously they're going to be more willing to work harder to make it successful. Employees can also develop and grow with the business because we are giving them the opportunity now, obviously, to come up with solutions. We are giving them a chance to grow with the business, to come up with their solutions, where they feel that we can hear what they are saying. Informed decisions can also be made because we looked at both the positives and the negatives and we critically evaluate them. We are not just picking a decision out of the air. We are looking at all the positives and all the negatives before we make an informed decision. So our decision is based on analysis of the facts. We're not just going with a gut feeling. Right, it also enables the business to strengthen the driving forces and weaken the restraining forces because we have identified them. Okay, if we know what the driving forces, the supporting forces are, the positive forces, we need to hone in on them and make them more and make them stronger. And once we are able to identify the restraining forces, we can dim their effect. Then we need to weaken them, we need to make them weaker and diminish them. Right, business is also able to have an idea of the timeline required and the requirements of additional resources. Because this force field analysis is done within the business, obviously we have a better idea of what resources are available to the business and what this business is and is not able to do. All right. We also, because it is in the business, we have a more realistic idea of the timeline that is required. Now, by when do we need an answer? By when do we need a solution? We can set deadlines for the team, okay? As opposed to the Delphi where we have to wait for those experts to find the time. When we do it within the business itself, we give them a timeline because we know what it is what we need. Right, on the negative side, again, it is time consuming. Anything where you implement any kind of group activity is going to be time consuming. It takes longer for a group to reach consensus than what it takes for one person to just make a decision. Yeah, that's very quick. All right. And also the business has to stabilize before more changes can be made. So once we have implemented a change, we can't implement 10,000 changes all at once. When we make a change, we make one change and we wait for the business to stabilize first before we carry on and make more changes. Second negative point there, it requires the participation of all business units. This is not always possible. Okay, so when we do the force field analysis, we would like our group to consist of different people out of different areas out of our business. Now, we can't just make a group just out of financial people. We need somebody from the financial department. We need somebody there from the factories. We need somebody from purchasing. So there has to be representatives from across all business units. And obviously this is not always possible because while they are busy in a group activity, they are not necessarily doing their job. All right, so productivity obviously will suffer. We cannot take crucial key people out of their roles in the business so they can come and participate in our group activity. And then lastly, the analysis that we develop is entirely dependent upon the skill level and the knowledge of the group. So in other words, your solutions that you're going to come up with is only going to be as good as what the people is in your group. So when you establish your group, obviously it is very important that you choose group members that have high levels of skills, that are knowledgeable about how the business works and knowledgeable in their field, whether it's now be purchasing or production or financial issues or whatever. All right. So if you put a whole bunch of unskilled people in a group, you are not necessarily going to be coming up with a very sensible solution. All right. Your solution, the sensibility and your solution and whether your solution will work or not depends purely on the skill of the people in the group. How good are the people in your group? Right, so the next problem-solving technique is brainstorming. If we look at the application of brainstorming, first of all, we need to state the business's problem clearly so that all participants understand the problem. With brainstorming, same as with the force field analysis, we are also going to be making a group of people that is working within the business itself. All right, so once we want them obviously to come up with a solution, they first need to understand what the problem is. They can't find a solution to a problem they don't know even exists. So it's very important that we state the business problem clearly. We explain to them what the problem is so that everybody in the group understands the problem. Right, then all the group members must come up with possible causes of the problem. Okay, remember when we did the problem-solving cycle, I said to you, once we have identified the problem, we cannot fix the problem unless we know what is causing the problem. Now we need to find what is causing the problem so that we can address those causes. So within their groups, people are now going to come up with possible causes that, in their opinion, what can possibly be causing the problem for the business. Right, obviously time is of the essence, so every brainstorming session will have a time limit. Remember, we want to address these issues as quickly as possible. We need to find a solution as quickly as possible. Plus, all of our group members actually have a real job to do. Okay, so they actually need to also spend time on doing their actual job. So it's very important that we don't give them endless amounts of time to come up with these possible causes, to come up with solutions. They cannot spend as long as what they want. There has to be a time limit. Right, now the ideas within their groups, once they have identified the problem, they need to come up with possible solutions. So when they start coming up with solutions in their groups, it is very important to write the ideas down where all the participants can see it. All right, now obviously with technology today, we don't physically have to have all the participants in one room together. We can also do an e-brainstorming session where through apps like Zoom, for example, nowadays, you can have an online brainstorming session. But it is very important that all the ideas are written down where everybody can see it. The idea is that when one person gives an idea, other people can see that idea and it might stimulate creativity within them, and one person's idea might give another person an even better idea. All right, so we need to kind of feed off of each other's ideas. So we have to be able to see it. Right, each suggestion, as I said, will inspire new thoughts and ideas. Seeing somebody else's idea will instill my creativity, it will wake my creativity up, and it might just remind me of something, and I can come up with a solution that I would not have thought of if I did not see the other person's idea. Very, very important that we do not judge or criticize each other's ideas. The minute that we feel, any person feels that his ideas are going to be criticized, people are going to give their ideas less freely. They're going to be scared to actually give their idea for fear that somebody else is going to criticize their idea and make them look stupid. All right. So the idea is that we just pop ideas and pop ideas. We do not say anything negative. All right, because once we criticize one person's idea, everybody else is going to think, okay, well, I'm not going to give my idea now because look at how they're pulling this person apart. All right, no judgments, no criticism. We just want as many ideas as quickly as possible. Right, and once again, all members of the group randomly make suggestions. Okay, so as ideas pop into people's heads, they just talk. You don't think about your idea, you just say, okay, what about this? What about this? And everybody in the group is allowed to make suggestions. We want everybody to actually make suggestions. Right, then once we have now exhausted our suggestions and we've written all of our ideas down now obviously the group must rate the ideas according to its usefulness. Do we think it's going to work? Is it not going to work? How much is it going to cost to implement? Remember, financial issues, it always comes in. We cannot implement a solution that is going to mean that the business now needs to spend 5 million rand to implement this decision. Okay, we want the most cost-effective decision. So we're going to rate all of these ideas. Again, we're not criticizing, we are rating them. Which ones do we think is going to be the most useful? Which ones are the most easy to implement? Which ones are the cheapest to implement? Do we have the resources? Do we not have the resources? Right, once we have done that, obviously we're going to evaluate all ideas, and then obviously we might have more than one idea on our board that basically boils down to the same thing. It's different versions of the same idea. So what we then need to do is we combine similar ones and then we refine our list. Now we're basically making a short list of our list. Right, then we need to discuss a plan of action on how we're going to implement the best ideas. Okay, so we have a defined list. We need to decide which ones are the best ideas according to our group. And then we have to decide a plan of action. How are we actually going to implement this solution in the business? Right, if we evaluate the impact of brainstorming, on the positive side, obviously we can come up with better solutions because there's collective contributions. The more people we have to give ideas, the more varied and the more creative our ideas will become. One person obviously is less creative than lots of people. Now we obviously get some people that are more creative than others, some people that can think outside of the box. All right. We get logical people, we get creative people. So it's important that we combine these different kinds of people so that we can find the best solutions. Now, if everybody's contributing, we can fine-tune each other's ideas and we can come up with a good solution. Combinations of ideas can be chosen also after all the ideas have been written down. As I said, maybe two different people came up with two different ideas, and if we combine those two ideas, it might be our brilliant solution. All right, we would not have known that if we didn't have this brainstorming session. So once people have given their ideas, we don't have to just pick one idea, we can combine different ideas into one solution. Employees also feel motivated because, as I said earlier, with also the force field analysis, employees will feel that they've contributed to the problem solving. They're going to feel valued. They're going to feel like the business actually sees their skills and appreciates them for who they are. So they are more motivated also when it comes to the implementation of the solution to participate into the implementation and to actually buy into the idea of the implementation of the solution. Right, it also stimulates creative thinking. It is not always like a financial person, for example, that's working there, an accountant or whatever. Accountants generally are not your creative thinkers. So when we expose them to brainstorming, it could also stimulate their creative thinking. They might have creative thinking there that they've just never known they had. All right. And as I said earlier, also people get ideas from each other. Obviously, when we just ideas pop into our heads and we give different ideas, as I said, by seeing somebody else's idea written down, it can stimulate my thinking, and I might come up with an idea that I would never have thought about if I didn't see the other person's suggestions. Now we get ideas from each other, we build on each other's ideas, and then together we get the best possible solution. On the negative side, obviously it is time consuming. Okay? As I said earlier, the minute that you have a group activity, it is not just one person making a decision. The minute that there's a brainstorming session, obviously it is going to take more time to actually make a decision because everybody has to generate the ideas. There's lots and lots of ideas. We're not going to put a limit on the amount of ideas, but obviously we have to ultimately choose one. All right, so it takes a lot of time to do brainstorming, to allow people to come up with different ideas, then to choose the best idea. Obviously, decision making is not going to be kind of on the spot. Also, because this is a group discussion where people physically are sitting together, it can happen that people with stronger personalities might dominate the discussion, and then people that have weaker personalities that they don't feel like they actually want to make a decision, and they might have a brilliant idea, but then they don't present that idea because the stronger team members are actually dominating the discussion and not giving everybody the chance to talk. So members that are more shy, whose personalities just are not as strong, they end up not contributing at all. All right, also on the negative side, obviously the fear of criticism. As I mentioned, the minute that we start criticizing each other's ideas, people are going to think twice about giving their idea. And there might be a brilliant idea hidden away there, but we don't present that idea because I'm too scared that people are going to criticize my idea and they're going to think that I'm stupid. All right, that is why we don't allow criticism. All right, it is one of the rules of brainstorming, but obviously, we can't control what people do. Right, on the negative side also it may lead to groupthink. Okay, so some individuals may not give their opinions. Normally it's your shy members, it's your people with weaker personalities, more introverted people. Sometimes are just going to nod and like agree with everybody else, even if they don't agree. They're going to pretend that they are agreeing to eliminate the conflict, and they're just going to pretend that they agree with the group. Okay, and that is also actually not what we want. Lastly, it can obviously result in conflict because there's lots of different opinions, and everybody is now allowed to give their opinion. And although we're not allowed to criticize, obviously people have their own opinions about the validity of some of these ideas, and people can get nasty. If I don't like a person or I don't like his ideas, it can result in a conflict situation. If I now say to the group that I don't like this idea and I don't think it is going to work. All right, so it does result in conflict sometimes. The last strategy that we're going to look at, the last technique, is the nominal group technique. Okay, again now we are going to divide employees into smaller groups, okay, to make them more manageable. We're going to encourage groups to clearly define the problem. All right, obviously we want all of our groups to work on the same problem. We have to present them with the problem that we have identified during the problem-solving cycle. Clearly define the problem so that everybody, all the little groups, know exactly what the problems are, because we want them working on the same problem. Then we're going to request each employee to silently brainstorm. So now this is the difference between the nominal group technique and brainstorming. With the nominal group technique, there's no shouting out of ideas. Each person individually is going to brainstorm by himself, and he's going to generate as many ideas as possible on his own and then write all of these ideas down on a piece of paper. Then we're going to take turns, and every employee in a small group has the opportunity to give one of his ideas with a short explanation. So we go kind of around the group. Okay, the first person gives one of his ideas, explains it a little bit. The second person gives only one idea. The third person gives one idea, and we go around the table. Right, then we're going to appoint one employee to write all the ideas down, because now each one person is now giving one idea at a time. So obviously we need to still write it down so that everybody gets an overview of all the ideas that has been generated. So one person in the group takes a large sheet of paper or an electronic board or on the computer or whatever, so that everybody can see it. And as the people give their ideas, that one person is going to write all those ideas down. Right, once we've gone around the table and every member of the group has given one of their solutions, we go around the table again for another time to allow every employee to now give a second solution. All right, and we do this, we repeat this. Now, employee 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, give me your second solution. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, give me your third solution. And we repeat this process until everybody has given all of their possible solutions. And again, every single solution that individuals have come up with is written on the large board for everybody to see. Right, now we're going to encourage employees to ask clarity-seeking questions. So if there is one idea that maybe they need more clarity on, they don't understand what that idea entails, obviously now they're going to ask questions. Now, the questions, it's not about criticizing the idea once again. It is just about finding out exactly how it is going to work. Now, if you do not understand a person's idea or a solution, you now have the opportunity to ask. And then obviously that person can explain. Okay, as I said, discourage criticism of any idea, because again, the minute that you criticize anybody's idea, others with brilliant ideas is also not going to be willing to give their ideas. Okay, so again, same as with the brainstorming, we do not criticize each other's ideas. Right, now, once everybody has given their ideas, we have a long list of ideas. Obviously, sometimes different people came up with the same idea. So now we have to look for those ones that are duplicated or similar, and we need to eliminate them. Now, it doesn't help that we have 10 ideas on that board and everyone says exactly the same. Okay, so where there has been duplications, we scratch them out, we make one idea out of all of them, whether they are similar or exactly the same. Right, now each employee is going to read through all of the suggestions that is written up there on the board and anonymously rate them. Okay, the fact that it is anonymous obviously prevents people from criticizing each other, and it prevents that group thinking. Each person on his own, anonymously, quietly by himself, is going to give each suggestion a score. He's going to find, based on his highest score that he's going to give, he is going to now choose, according to him, what is the best solution. All right, so quietly by themselves, anonymously. They don't shout it out, anonymously on a piece of paper. Quietly, I'm going to decide, right, these are all the different ideas that people came up with. I'm going to rate all of them, and then obviously whichever one I gave the highest points for is the one that I think is the best solution. Then we're going to collect the ratings. So again, everybody in the group is going to give what score. What score did I give suggestion 1? How much did I score suggestion 2 and 3 and 4 and 10 and 20 and whatever? And then for every idea, we're going to add up the total points. So group member 1 gave solution 1 2 points. Group member 2 gave it 5 points. Group member 3 gave it 15 points. We're going to add all of that together so that every single idea we now have an aggregate total, a total for, according to the ratings that the different group members gave it. Right, then all of these little small groups are now going to choose whichever idea tallied up with the highest score. So in this small group, once we've added up everybody's total, which single idea got the highest points? And each small group is now going to take their one solution that they picked to be the best one. They're going to present that to the larger group. Right, then in the larger group, obviously we're again going to number the possibilities. Okay, so we're going to come up each small group. If there was 10 small groups, then there's going to be 10 answers now. Each group is presented their best idea. And then everybody is going to vote for the top 3 solutions. And then through a democratic vote, obviously the best solution will be determined by that vote. Right, the impact of the nominal group technique on the positive side, obviously it gives all these group members time to think about the question in silence before responding, because each person obviously comes up quietly with their own ideas. So it provides them time to think without interference from other group members. Right, team members also have a chance to participate without interference. Again, in this scenario, obviously there's no strong personalities and weak personalities because everybody quietly sits and works by themselves. There's not dominant personalities that's going to scream out answers and shyer people is just going to keep quiet. Everybody participates on their own. The voting also in your small groups, the voting on ideas is anonymous. So obviously people are not going to be pressurized to vote for a more dominant person's idea just because you have to do it in front of everybody. Because it is anonymous, it leads to a more honest and reliable vote. Everybody is also given the opportunity to contribute, as I said, without 1 or 2 more dominant kind of people with stronger personalities dominating the process. Now, everybody can contribute equally. We are also able to generate a large amount of ideas very quickly, okay, because there's no discussion. Everybody just comes up with their ideas and then democratically prioritize them by giving them those scores. It also encourages participants to confront issues through constructive problem solving. Again, we are basing our decision on an analysis of the problem. Also, a very strong technique for preventing conformity. As I said earlier, because each person votes for the ideas quietly and anonymously by himself, it prevents that group thinking, where weaker personalities will be kind of just agreeing with a group just so that they don't want to get into conflict situations. Right. In this case, there is no conflict. There is no domineering personalities taking over. Each person anonymously votes for their best choices and they score their ideas. Now, everybody's ideas according to what they think. It's not kind of caving into the masses. On the negative side, obviously there's very little discussion. And as we said, as soon as there's discussion, we can bounce ideas from each other. And when I hear the other person's ideas, I can fine-tune mine and maybe a new idea pops into my head. Now, with this technique, there is no discussion. All right, so sometimes ideas are not fully developed and one idea cannot kind of lead to more ideas. Also, the ideas by members may not converge. All right, so there might not be similarities. They might not be able to come up with one solution. Also, suggestions may not be as creative, as I said, because there is no discussion. So one person is not giving ideas and that stimulates now my ideas. Because people are sitting quietly, coming up with their ideas on their own, you can't kind of feed off other people's creativity. Okay, so your suggestions might not be as out of the box as what it can possibly be with brainstorming. Again, it is time consuming because obviously it's going to take time. Once every person has come up with their solutions and we now have to go in a small group, go around round 1 and everybody gives one solution, and then round 2 and everybody gives solution, and round 3 and everybody gives a solution. Obviously this is going to be time consuming when each person, when he gives his idea, now also has to explain a little bit his idea. Right, also very hard to implement effectively with a larger group unless obviously it's very carefully planned beforehand. Obviously the bigger your group, the more difficult it is to control, and then it becomes more time consuming as well. It does require advanced preparation. Obviously you need to decide who you're going to put into your small groups. So you need to prepare for this in advance. You can't just quickly decide in the morning, okay, come spontaneously, we are now going to do this today. All right. Then good ideas can also be voted out because there was no discussion. Okay, there was no discussion, there was no, people might not understand some ideas, and some of those ideas might be good ideas, and now people give it a low score because they don't really understand that idea, and then a good idea is voted out and it's never even thought of again. Also because your groups are relatively small, obviously it also limits participation. Yeah? There's not as many people that can participate in this, and people are pre-selected. So again, people might feel left out. Yes? People that is working in your business that wasn't chosen to be part of this group, they might actually feel excluded. Right, we're almost done. Just quickly, the meaning of creative thinking. Obviously, creative thinking is the ability to think of original and innovative ideas, thinking outside of the box. Not thinking, oh, we've always done it like this and we're going to continue to do it like this. Trying to think of different ways of doing things, exploring new ideas, generating more possibilities, looking for answers in different places, looking for different ways to do things. The benefits of creative thinking at the workplace. Obviously, we can get unconventional ideas. Ideas out of the box thinking can come up with solutions that we might not have thought of if we didn't have creative people at the workplace. Okay, it's very important that we don't just do, obviously if the business has a problem, what we have been doing isn't working. So we need to find a new way to do things. And creative thinking is going to help us to do that. Right, business problems may be solved, as I said, in unconventional ways. It improves motivation among staff members. You can think for yourself. People get bored very easily. If people in your job, day after day, you're doing the same thing and the same thing and the same thing and the same thing, it gets very, very boring and people get demotivated. But the minute that we change the way that we do things because of creative thinking, we can again motivate people. Now we change it up, we make their job interesting again, and that will motivate them to work harder. Right, management and employees may also keep up with fast-changing technology. Obviously, in the field, whichever field the business is in, it is very important that they stay up to date with the latest technology. Like, for example, with teaching now, we have to teach remotely. We have to keep up. Now we have to make use of technology that is there. And creative thinking, if people are just doing the way that they've been doing all along and they're saying, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that, obviously that's not creative thinking. When there is creative thinking, we always find a way of doing something because the life around us is changing or there's a challenging situation out there. We need to keep up with technology, and technology is changing all the time. And in order to adapt to changes out there, obviously we have to be creative thinkers. Right, very important. Creativity may also lead to new inventions. All right, you are like stuck to your cell phones nowadays. And I'm not complaining because it's enabling us to actually do these lessons right now. But when I was in high school, cell phones didn't exist. My literally last year at university, that's when the first cell phones came to South Africa. But if it wasn't for creative thinking, we would not have cell phones. If it wasn't for creative thinking, there's a lot of things that we simply would not have. No tablets, no laptops, no games for you to play on your cell phone. All of that came about as creative thinking. There's people out there that are thinking, okay, how can I make people's lives easier? What can I sell that is different that I can make money out of, right? So when people think creatively, they come up with ideas that not only makes their life easier, it also makes life easier for others, and it improves everybody's standards of living in the business. If you can come up with a new invention, something that doesn't exist that you can now add to your product line, obviously there's a huge potential for profit there. Okay, again, may give the business a competitive advantage. Again, if you come up with something unusual, you come up with a unique idea, obviously it gives you the edge over your competitor. If you are doing something, it can be anything, the way that you do your advertising, as I said, coming up with a new product, all of that can give you, it can bring consumers to you, because they are going to think that, this business is better than the other one. Look at how they are advertising. Look at how they are dealing with the current situation. Look at all the new products that they are issuing. All right, if you take, for example, the cell phone industry, how many new cell phones are they issuing every year? You have your upgrade and you think, I've got the top of the range phone now. 2 months later, there's a better one. Okay, it gives them the competitive advantage. It keeps consumers interested in your product if you are changing it up and making it better all the time. And to make it better, obviously you need to think creatively. You have to think, how can I make it better? Right, productivity also increases because, again, your employees can generate multiple ideas and they utilize their time and money more effectively. Instead of one person now trying to come up with ideas, we make use of these problem-solving techniques. We get everybody involved. So in a short amount of time, we can generate as many ideas as possible, and then obviously we can choose the viable ones. Right, managers and employees also have more confidence if you live up to their full potential. Obviously, if there was an employee that came up with an idea and you took that idea and you ran with that idea, that employee is going to feel like you're the best thing, because you took his idea now and his idea is actually making money for the business. It gives him confidence. It gives others confidence if they can see that, this like low down employee person had a brilliant idea and the business actually ran with that. It will encourage others also to also come up with good ideas. Managers will be better leaders because they will be better able to manage these changes. Obviously, so if managers can be taught how to think creatively and they think outside of the box and they just don't insist on things being done the way that it's always been done, obviously when changes do happen, they're not going to fall apart. Now, as I said, there's different kinds of people. Some people don't like change. Creative thinkers are obviously more able to adapt to change, and the business will benefit from that. Managers and employees can also develop a completely new outlook. Okay, so this new way of thinking can be applied also to any task, any job that they might have to do. It's not necessary to do it the same way that we've been doing it for 10 years. If there's a better way to do it, we need to do that. Okay, increase our productivity, and people will also enjoy their job more if we change what they are doing. As I said, you do the same thing day after day after day, people get bored. Okay, they don't want that. Leads to more positive attitudes, again, because your employees are going to feel that they have contributed towards the problem solving because you got them involved, right? Through these problem solving techniques, whether you use brainstorming, whether you use the nominal group technique, doesn't matter which one you use. Obviously, once they have been participating in a group activity, they will feel that they've been included, they will feel that they were part of this decision making, and they are more likely to buy into the solution and actually do what you want them to do. Also, that feeling of great accomplishment, okay, once you have decided now what your solution is, obviously the people that came up with a solution in their groups, they are going to feel great about themselves. They're going to feel that they have accomplished something. They're going to feel that, I helped to solve this problem. I helped to come up with a solution. And once that happens, obviously, as I said, they will buy into the solution. They will aggressively pursue the solution. They will do what it needs to be done to make this solution work. And that obviously is going to contribute towards the success of the business. Lastly, It is going to stimulate initiative from employees and managers. Okay, lots of people like being stuck there in their little comfort zone. They don't like change. They don't like to think differently. But sometimes it's good if we shake them out of that comfort zone and force them to think differently, because that is when sometimes they actually reach their full potential. Right, the last thing. Now, what can we do to create an environment that promotes creative thinking? Okay, as I said, people are different, and some people are just logical thinkers, and some people are more creative than others. But what can we do at the workplace to encourage our employees to be more creative? Okay, first of all, we need to encourage alternative ways of working and doing things. We must not be too prescriptive and say, right, this is how we are going to do this. And if people don't do it my way, then it's the wrong way. That is the wrong attitude, right? There's different ways of doing the same thing and getting the same result. We need to allow people to decide how they want to do their job, obviously within reason. Secondly, we want to encourage our staff to come up with new ideas and solutions, which means we must listen to them. If they have solutions, we mustn't just brush them off and tell them, that's a stupid solution and that's above your pay grade. You don't get paid to come up with solutions. Go do your job, right? We want to encourage them to come up with new ideas. We want to be supportive of their ideas. Right, so respond enthusiastically to all of their ideas. Don't, if the employee comes to you with an idea, pretend that you are listening to him, but in the meantime you're playing on your phone or you're busy typing up your report, whatever. Listen to them when they come with a new idea and respond enthusiastically to all ideas. Doesn't matter if you think it's a crap idea or not. You respond enthusiastically, you tell them it's a great idea, and you will definitely think about it. Okay, very important to keep the communication channels open. Sometimes people also don't want to physically come to the manager to give their ideas. Sometimes they actually prefer to make their suggestions anonymously. So it also is a good idea to place a suggestion box around the workplace and encourage people that when they want to make a suggestion about anything, they can put a suggestion in that suggestion box anonymously, or they can add their name. Right, emphasize the importance of creative thinking. Make sure that you repeatedly tell people that, listen, we as management, we want to hear your ideas. We want you to share your ideas with us. Keep those channels of communications open. Very important, make time for brainstorming sessions. Yes, it's important that everybody does their job. But once in a while, maybe once a month, on a Friday afternoon, tell them, right, we are not going to work after lunch. After lunch, we're going to have a workshop. We're going to have a brainstorming session. We want to talk to the staff. We want to get your ideas. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you're feeling. How you think we should be doing things, because that is going to give the idea across that you're actually interested. Now you are listening. You are there for them. You want them to think creatively. Right, then also you can train staff in innovative techniques, creative problem-solving skills, mind mapping, lateral thinking. As I said, it is a different thought pattern. Okay, so as far as training goes, obviously you would need to get in a specialist person. This is not something that anybody can just do, but there are people that are out there that can try and train staff to think differently. Right, also very important, encourage job swaps within the organization. Okay, obviously, people don't always have the correct idea about what is happening, what different people in the organization is doing. Me as one person might think that, oh, Yanni that's working there, he has the dream job. I wish I had his job. If I do a job shop and Yanni come and does my job and I go and do Yanni's job, obviously I can get a better idea of what that employee is actually physically doing. We need to interact with other departments so that we can get the whole picture, the overall picture of what this business organization is all about and how the different departments are actually doing things. Because different departments can also learn from each other about what works and what doesn't work.